spreadsheet. I only tried to update where there was an outflow. And the notable things we can see is there was one outflow for the reputation bounty. GAN grew by 3 clients, which is amazing. It's fantastic news. We have now officially staked 2,000 sold. And there was one address, which it's possible I hadn't seen it before, but there was a new address I added for important addresses. I can't decipher that one. If anybody can, please feel free to ping me or update it yourself. And that concludes the Treasury Movements update. Hey, Billy.
Hey, Dean. Should I take it from here and continue with the Realms stats updates?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Sure. Kirk, do you want to come on stage and share the update on the UI so we could get everybody up to speed on what new information everybody could see very easily? And, you don't need to wait for me or anybody to prepare this data. Kirk, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Nope. Well, while Kirk gets that sorted out, one of our 2 proposals this week had 34 participants, and that was the send June to August DAO core emissions, with 100% of the participants voting yes. And the total stake in the proposal was 8.28 million votes. The other proposal that also passed this week was the co-organized and sponsored reputation workshop at Breakpoint. Had 35 participants, and the sentiment was 98.81% yes versus 1.19% no. And in unique voters, that was 34 yes versus 1 no. So those were the 2 proposals we had this week in Realms. And the number that I wanted to look at and keep track of is the number of unique participants in Realms. Like if we look at the past few months, on average, we have between 32 and 40 votes, with some proposals like the Bear Sweep reaching 48. And some older proposals, I'm not sure if that was a record, was around 80 or 90 participants. The reason why I'm trying to bring this up as an important metric is the recent Mango exploit, with over 20,000 wallets affected. The actual participation rate was actually pretty close to what we achieve on every single proposal, which they managed to get 37 unique voters for such an important proposal. So it's important to have your community aware of how governance works, how you could participate, and communicating that they could use their voting power, like to voice their opinion. Kirk, can you speak now?
Yeah, could you hear me?
Yep, now I can hear you.
Yeah. So, what do you want me to talk about? Which product?
The update on the governance, the ability to show the statistics. Can you share a few screenshots of what that looks like?
So the idea behind what we started off in Grape Art was that we added the governance part for any collection, but we also added governance for your wallet. We had a bounty that was last week to show the voting positions of each wallet that's participating. But we enhanced that significantly much this week. And why did we do that? It was something that we were going to do eventually, and as a long-term goal and idea was, how do we actually start using this data and showing it in a meaningful way, which right now we're not able to do efficiently in Realms. And I see that Patrick has also been struggling, but in the end of the day, we're just users of Patrick's tool. What's more important is we have tools that we're going to be using from our end. So right now, we have support when you go to, let's say, the Grape collection or from your wallet, and you see the governances that you're participating in. You'll see a button there that's going to say get voting details for the proposal. It's going to open it up. We support full GIST decoding. So we're going to load the full description there if it's a GIST URL. If it's a short description, of course, naturally, it's going to show it. We have the link on the bottom that's going to be the direct link on GitHub. And with regards to the summary is going to be under, and it's going to show the information that's really important for what we're trying to gather and to have here. Not only are we showing percentages and the voting numbers in total, but also the total participants and a bit more information. But we're going to add additional information on top of this. The important tools, of course, are the ones that you could export already that we added last week. But it's also to get the summary information, which is core to be able to see how many people are actually participating in each proposal that's been made. And you could go back in history and you could see all these different proposals, and you could see exactly what the sentiment was and participation and the respective votes accordingly. But again, this is something that we've been experimenting on, and we're going to add a lot more functionality here.
Thank you, Kirk. So with the metrics and treasury updates, I think we could proceed to the next topic, unless there's some other metric we want to share. So the next topic I would like to discuss in detail is this proposal to claim and withdraw our USDC and SOL back from Mango. And Sejal, once we go over this Mango discussion, you're more than welcome to come on stage and introduce yourself, unless you want to do that now. Okay. Sure. So two things here. Last week in our DAO call, we discussed that there will be a claim site, which Mango did set up, and this was the claim site which Mango set up. But as a DAO, there was no way to actually claim back anything from that site unless we add custom instructions on Realms to be able to withdraw from the Mango claim program, which was made. And if you observe the site, it has this verbiage. Let me get it here. On the bottom, like once you connect and you go to withdraw any claim back from Mango, they've added this legal verbiage, which is basically agreeing that by withdrawing, you volunteer to give up any like rights to sue Mango. Like, I don't know why would we even think about doing that as Grape? They've contributed so much to Solana and to governance. So we had to make sure that this same verbiage is there for for our DAO. So, if somebody does take them to court, they will show that even other DAOs have to follow exactly the same process. So Adrian was very helpful, and he created a UI for any DAO which has used Mango through Realms. So even if we're not the only ones that have used Mango through Realms, they could do the same exact process that we are doing to claim back our governance tokens. So by executing this proposal, what's going to happen is the USDC that we're going to get back is going to go back to the USDC account where it came from, because that's the way the claim program works. Initially, what we wanted to do was we wanted to send a USDC to the B7 address, which is the address where we stake our SOL from, and any further conversions would actually sit in the same account. But that's not that mission critical for our DAO, as we need to go over the next steps into, okay, now we got the USDC back, and we need to decide how are we going to proceed with buying the SOL based on the plan that CryptoPause has set up. And CryptoPause, are you ready to go over those options that we have?
Come again? I heard my name. Hi, guys.
So on the next steps, once this proposal does go through, we should get back the USDC, and it's most likely going to be in an account where the community has direct control over.
Oh yeah.
If for whatever reason it's in an account where only the council has control, that's why on the bottom of this proposal we are authorizing the council to proceed with moving the funds in a community-controlled DAO wallet address. That's the only reason why we have that clarification on the bottom.
And maybe something happens, and I hope not, but yeah.
We tested this many times with Adrian. We made 10 different drafts. Although I'm pretty sure it's probably going to work, with very high certainty. If it doesn't work, again, that's why this proposal authorizes the council to go over any potential bugs that could be with the way the proposal has been set up. But again, following the guidance from the Mango team, this is what we currently have. And our next steps is what CryptoPause is going to talk about regarding the options we have to acquire the remaining SOL pending.
Yeah, that's basically something we need to decide. We don't need to decide it now, but obviously if we want more SOL, and right now it's even a better situation than when we initially talked about it. Yeah, we could do it different ways. We could do it, we could swap it on squads. So we could either create a new squads multisig wallet for that, or do it with our existing ones. So that would, I think, be a good solution, because we would need something that is either a delegate setup like with Mango, and I don't know of any other method right now, or like a multisig.
Execution-wise, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I'm not sure which squads you are in, but I would start with those. Start looking at the ones that you are also in, and see which ones are the most active too, because we want to be able to execute these trades following the strategy that you already have.
I mean, we could do a treasury squats or something like that, because it doesn't have anything to do with bounty and not necessarily with the agility fund. So we could set up a new squats.
Okay. In that case, if we set up a new treasury squad for these kind of situations, we will probably need to add, at least two other members that want to participate, like volunteer to participate in the treasury management.
Yeah, I can do like for today. My goal was basically not to discuss necessarily every different option that we have, but like see the general direction and then like get things started with discourse, and I can set up a post there, and from there on, like we can either decide going the squats route or whatever we feel comfortable with. But for today, I just wanted to know whether we want to swap the rest of the funds, if the DAO is still okay with that. Because if we say we don't want to do it, then we don't need to invest any more time.
Okay, should we do a poll here, or do you think this needs to go on chain?
I think since we can't continue with what we initially voted on, I think we can do like do a vote here in the DAO channel and see whether the majority wants to continue, because we need to find a different solution, and then we probably need, not probably, we most definitely need an on-chain vote in order to transfer the funds to squats or whatever. So it's just like investing more time in finding a solution.
Okay, but when that happens, that proposal could include the correct verbiage to say that, by agreeing to send these funds to the squad's wallet, we are voting to proceed acquiring more SOL. If we write it in that way, we don't need to make an additional proposal, I think.
It's true, but this assumes that people are okay with squats. If they aren't okay with squats, we're in like
we could also break it into chunks, maybe like 3 chunks, like 10,000, and then the remaining 12, whatever that is.
Yeah, we could also do that, but this sounds like even more more work. So I can set a discourse thread and see from there, and I will make the DAO poll.
All right.
Okay, now I'm seeing a poll in. Oh no, that's beers. Okay, I was irritated. I'll set up the DAO poll now and ping everyone in live chat here so we can continue.
Yeah. I think regarding the next steps here, they're not very clear on what we're going to do next.
In regards to what?
The Solana purchase. So you're referring to the potential risks that we have by doing the swap on squads, right? That's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other?
Sorry for interrupting. I just want to make sure I do something real fast. Sorry, this discussion with Ryder. Just real fast, because we discussed this last week and he didn't bring up the timing issue that last week, and we said we would continue buying. Should I be sending the funds back? I'll just do it now. I'm not supporting yes or no to change any decisions. I just want to be in agreement and move forward. Sorry for interrupting.
can just speak on following our on-chain decision.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, Billy, you agree we'll send the funds back?
Wait, was the decision though to purchase the sweep, was it ever to return it to the treasury? I mean,
Yeah.
was that in the end?
Yeah, I had written that these NFTs will be purchased over 30 days. At any time, we can decide to stop and return the remainder of the USDC to the treasury. Any USDC remaining will be sent to the treasury. So I 100% agree with what Ryder is saying.
Personally, I'm indifferent to yes or no as well. So
okay, I'll send it.
I'm not in favor or against, but the point that Ryder is making is that we have a proposal, and if, as Dean said, it was limited to 30 days, that allows you to send the funds back to the treasury.
Yeah, I should have brought it up last week. I didn't realize that the timing, and last week we had all set to continue. Anyway, I'll send it back. Totally agree with Ryder, and that concludes this week. Thank you for bringing it to our attention, Ryder.
Sejal, would you like to come on stage to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, can I ask something regarding what happened right now with the discussion around the bears? What's more important, the fact that we need to adhere to the 30-day timeline, or the fact that it's best that we wait and see what happens to the proposal that the bears have just put up on Realms to delist the bears from Magic Eden and then purchase them from Grape.art?
I agree, but if we need to do a new proposal to continue the sweep, that's fine also.
Yeah, but I don't understand why we need to send back the funds because we passed the 30-day mark. Whereas it seems that the DAO agrees, the consensus is that we want to continue and spend the remaining 6K by purchasing bears from Grape.art.
So there's two issues here. One, that there were certain delays which were not in our control, for sure. Two, the royalty situation has completely screwed over like most of these projects, and they're not doing good. So there's a lot of other variables that also changed in addition to what we committed to as a DAO. And on that principle, yes, you're right. But what Dean is saying is, how long should we do this? And how long, we never said we're going to do this forever.
Yeah, of course.
Initially, my question was just what's our timeline? Because I see we made this decision and it's not really moving forward. So my question was, what was the timeline? And then I got information from Dean that it was 30 days. These 30 days passed. So we should adhere to our decision we made, but it's only for 30 days. If you want to continue, you can make a new proposal.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying there, but Billy's got a point. And there are the governance part that was just added a few days ago. And we had people in the community that didn't even believe it and were giving us heat on why we should actually help them become a DAO. These just happened now. So it's a different dynamic too. Maybe the right thing would be to make another proposal on what to do for the next steps, because this did delay as a process in general. I think ultimately, as Grape, what we managed to do for the bears, right now, they're the first days that they did their first on-chain proposal. And I think it's incredible. And the dynamic here that it could open could be very interesting as what we could do as Grape in a community standpoint. And if we could enable more DAOs from these NFTs to not be just JPEGs and be something more. That's how I vision the sweep and what we're going to do. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to buy all the bears. It could be that maybe the funds could be repurposed for the project or used for something else to help them become more of a DAO. But it's food for thought. But I don't think it's just we should abandon it completely.
No, I'm personally not saying that we should abandon it. My understanding is that the majority of the DAO agrees that we should continue and go through with that initiative. I just
Yeah, I didn't say that you
don't.
said that, Archie. I agree
No, no,
with
no.
you. I didn't
Yeah,
say you
man,
said
but I
that.
don't understand why we need to send back the funds, have a new on-chain proposal
Look,
about what should
this is
happen.
no. It's because of articulation. The proposal said that, and the trickiest place is going to be executing decisions that were made on chain that do not connect to on chain instructions. I think just this is a maturity point as a DAO where we need to get better and better and better at detailing proposals. If anything, it was my failure in not thinking out the different variables on the proposal. So the correct thing, I have to agree, is we have to follow to the T what we had proposed, and then the next thing is to just repurpose it, like as Kirk has suggested. We,
Yeah,
I
but it's not a
feel.
failure. I mean, this is not a failure at all. I
Oh
mean,
no,
this we manages Grape to make them
yeah,
a DAO.
it
Huge
was a
for us.
fantastic
Huge.
initiative. I'm very happy we did it. Where my failure was is not thinking out the different variables to have a better articulated proposal. I'll send it now to the 6J.
I think if you were buying bears at 10 SOL each, then someone could turn around and say it's a failure. The way you did it, you did it in a timed way. You were sweeping the floor at times that people couldn't even predict. So it was very efficient, effective. It got the message out. I think it was a success in that point, and now it's on us really on how we're going to steer the ship on this, because could be an interesting dynamic and a learning pod for what we could do with other NFT communities.
Yeah, and just like Jordan from used to work at Metaplex, uses the trash pandas to experiment. We're basically using the bears to also experiment and potentially build very good things with this very creative team. So it's a good opportunity, and we are basically thinking about the best way that this could benefit both their community and Grape at the same time. I think that's what we're trying to focus on here.
Why don't we next time add this point in the proposal? If something like this happens again, we can the community can, for example, Ryder just said that we can't make an ad hoc Discord poll and go ahead, change the whole decision that was done on chain. So why don't the proposal on chain actually specifies it that a certain things can actually be later on discussed on a Discord to make it more efficient and not go to another proposal altogether to change the whole scenario. We can do that in the proposal itself.
We could, but in this specific case, there's so many variables that changed and were not expected, which you cannot predict in the proposal. Like, one is the royalty situation. Two is the delay in the transfer of the updated authority to help them create a DAO so they could vote to do whatever they want to do. Like, all these things, we could assume that they're going to be done in a reasonable amount of time, but they're not always in our control, and those things cannot be specified in the proposal. And once again, personally, I am completely indifferent from continuing or stopping the sweep, but I am fully supportive of helping any NFT community use the tools that exist to properly allow their community to participate in decisions which affect their own NFTs. Like, this is something where other projects are using Discord polls to do, and that's fine. But we're learning here as Grape, like, what tools exist and what tools need to be improved. Like, in governance, there's certain limits into how many votes you could, like, with your NFT, how many votes that you could use if you're using like an older version of governance. There's some bugs in the UI. Like, we're also learning because we're helping assist, and what are the pain points and what can be improved. Because as Grape as a DAO, we understand how important it is to have a tool to vote, and the transparency that gives to the DAO creates more trust. This is what every community should have. And we could guide other communities to follow the same path with what we have learned at Grape. And like I'm noticing that they're making some mistakes that we have made also. And like communication. Like, if you go and directly make a proposal on Realms and you don't tweet about it, you don't announce in your Discord, you don't give any attention to that proposal, yeah, of course nobody's going to vote. That's a communication problem, though. It's not a technology problem. So it's good to understand that the technology doesn't solve the problems that communities have always. The technology could help assist, but to better use these tools, you also need to structure your DAO in a certain way, have some best practices in place. Because further down the line, where DAOs and realms are going to be able to vote in other DAOs, like Grape could be able to vote as a DAO for Mango, and Mango is going to be able to vote in Solend, and etc. When that happens, if these proposals just show up on realms, there's no time to prepare as another DAO to participate in proposals in other DAOs. So understanding those dynamics early will help other communities learn from our mistakes and become better. And we're in a very good position to understand how governance works, what hasn't worked from us, and learn from the needs from these communities, because we're learning here. We're all learning.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you completely, and this is a very solid point. That's why I said that even in the proposal, we can, add such clauses which actually makes, for example, like Dean said that in this particular proposal, there were certain things that changed, certain variables that changed, and which were not in Grape's control. So once things change like that, the proposal has to specify that certain things can be put in front of the community on Discord. For example, we said 30 days. Now, the problem is that there is an on-chain poll which actually specifies something else. And after 30 days, regardless of what happened, we are putting up a poll on Discord to decide if we should continue or not. So for future, something like this can be added in the initial proposal on realms, that if the timeline goes by, the Discord can decide if we are going to extend the proposal or not, or the timeline of the proposal or not, or something like that.
I disagree with that part with regards to putting it on Discord after it's on chain. I would say within this time frame that there should be a clause there that there should be a vote to extend on realms. I think that would be a better approach.
No, and also, Nanko, you're bringing up a good point. Like, sometimes where we have these proposals where we have to do like Discord polls, usually it's mainly to just see the sentiment. It's not binding in any way for the DAO. But we could fix that also. Like, we could create a new governance in Realms that has no like Solana or Grape or any tokens connected to it. And we could set the voting period to 24 hours. And we could do sentiment-based votes on-chain at a much shorter time period. So if we need to take these kind of decisions quickly, we could use Realms. We could still use Realms instead of Discord if it's something that we're divided on what we should do and we don't know what to do. Like, like using the sentiment from realms could help in these cases. So if that's necessary, we could definitely create a governance with a shorter voting period for like DAO call voting. So we don't do it on Discord or discourse.
Yeah, I can say that I think that that's a good idea. I think the notion of having funds involved in any task should have some form of a timeline, and there could be a clause that says something along those lines that it's subject to future review and approval to extend the timeline, right? But there should always be a timeline whenever it involves funds that leave the treasury, that at some point they need to be returned back. So I don't think it was a failure necessarily, Dean. As you were saying, I think it was good that you put a timeline in, and something that we should all aspire to if we're ever talking about funds that come from the treasuries in any way.
I agree with this.
I'm not sure if we're ready to go like to the next topic because we took up a lot of time on this. Ryder, do you think we have to cover something else, or do you disagree with what we're doing?
I don't think that I should be in like a reviewer here. I was just a very basic question as a DAO member I posed, and yeah, it's up to the DAO and the community to go forward with this. We wouldn't even. It was not necessary to completely stop the DAO call and discuss it right now. I don't want to come off like this very angry guy.
No, you're not coming off as an angry guy. I want to understand your concerns, which you brought up, and if we address them with what we're discussing.
Yeah, I think so. I was just basically saying we made an on-chain decision, and I think we should follow it. And if we think we want to do something else, then we should make another on-chain decision to guide our actions.
Okay. So you're proposing we do another on-chain proposal to stop or to do something else? It's like what you're saying. So
well, the first proposal, as it was explained to me, is said that after 30 days, the not used funds should be sent back.
So that's covered.
Yeah, in that case, I think we should just follow our decision and for the path forward. So maybe we want to help beers in some other capacity in becoming a DAO and not just buying their NFTs or whatever. We can make another on-chain decision on how we want to handle that, and that's my grapes on that.
But just like Dean said, I'm not sure because Nanko, you're saying that we deviated from our on-chain decision. I think this is what we voted on. Like, there was a time limit, and it does specify that the funds are returned.
Yeah, that's also my understanding.
So we're probably it's similar to what CryptoPause was asking earlier on. Since the original proposal to buy Solana was up to August, and we extended this, it's a very similar situation. I think CryptoPod is bringing up exactly the same point, that in both cases, if we want to extend, there should be a follow-up proposal.
Yeah, sounds good.
Before we go on to the next topic, Sajal, did you try to get on stage before and you couldn't?
Hi, can you hear me, guys?
Hi.
Yeah. Hey, cool. Thanks so much for inviting me, and I love the discussion. I think there's so many opinions and thoughts, and I think that's how eventually you define things. So I just kudos to you guys. I love it. And yeah, so I'll quickly introduce myself. I am Sejal and I joined Grape DAO a couple of days back. So, the idea is I'm a researcher by profession and I just, like to I'm trying to research more about DAOs and their structures, how they operate. And there are very few DAOs and communities which actually, live to the essence of it. And I think Grape DAO is one of them because I love how everybody is so, clear about that. No, everything is what community decides and all those things. So that is really good. And that is what really attracted me to be a part of it. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm from India, like I said, and I really look forward to, seeing what is upcoming and how I can contribute and, how do we take this ahead and actually set standards for, communities and DAOs in the space, because I think that is very much needed. Because, so I'll tell you quickly how I got interested in this, right? So one of the things that has always, attracted me towards DAOs is that it gives you the opportunity and the freedom to, work from anywhere and work for like different organizations at the same time. I think those are the things which are missing in the typical corporate world, and that brought me here. And I think that is something that I want each and everybody to experience, but that is only possible once, things are streamlined and people get that confidence that they can do this full time. So I think that's my personal mission. And yeah, so I would love to answer any questions if anybody has, but I'm super excited and looking forward to being part of this. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for joining, and that's an incredible intro. I have a question from your research. What do you think about like progressive like decentralization, forced decentralization, and the current kinds of DAOs that exist? Like, what are your observations on what you see?
Yeah. So, see, what I have observed till now is, first of all, they are still very messy, right? It's messed up. And I think a couple of things that I personally feel that are missing in DAOs and communities that I have been part of is, first is that because of the chaos, just give me 1 second. 1 second. Yeah, actually, there's a festival in India, and I'm at home, so many things happening at the same time. But yeah, so what I was saying is that because of the chaotic and the messy nature, I think DAOs, they're not able to really, get people who are, they truly want to contribute. Because I think today what DAOs need is that, they need a credible and true contributors. They don't need 20,000 members. They don't need 50,000 members, right? I think that time is gone when people wanted more and more people in the community. What they really want is people who are, honestly, who care about it. And that is difficult to have because I think if I as a user talk about it when I enter, it just doesn't feel like, just like, you go in an organization, there's an HR who guides you, right? This is how these are the days you take leave on, this is your compensation, this then that, right? But in a DAO, that is missing. I think those are the things that I am still, working on, and I'm actually writing a piece about it. I would love to share with you guys, and we can see how things are here and build it together. Yeah, like a lot of thoughts around it, but I think I'll keep it for a separate call, because otherwise I'll take up too much time. But yeah, but
Yeah, definitely. We need to set up a separate call, which is focused on all of these issues. Nanko was asking, how did you find out about Grape?
yeah. Okay. So I actually started, like I said, I started research about, ecosystems and DAOs. And Solana is one ecosystem that I picked up because Solana is very organized, right? And I've seen this other ecosystems, they are, scattered. Not everything is on place. If you really want to build for something, right, you really need that guidance, and you need people who are actually, working towards it and who want people to come and build on them, right? And Solana is one of them. That is why I picked up Solana. And when I entered Solana, I spoke to a lot of NFT communities, and I realized that, it's just like all over, right? And any product, and this is my personal, view and my observation, any product, any tool that you build, cannot be stringent, because each community is different. They have their own requirements, they have their own thing, right? How do you build something which fits into everything, right? Which actually helps people, right? With the same thing. So I think that is something that I came about. And then I, started reading a lot about DAOs which are actually good and structured. And Grape DAO kept coming in again and again. And I realized that you guys are doing, a lot of things. And the fact that everybody is so driven and motivated to streamline things and, to actually listen to people, who have something to offer, who have, their opinions. I think that is something that happens here, which really fascinated me. So I really wanted to be a part of this and see, how you guys are building, how you think and all those things. So I think that is how I ended up here. I just thought, yeah, let me just, also be a part of this. Yeah.
I also see that you qualify to be part of like the DAO, if you want to. Do you want to be part
Oh,
of the DAO?
yes, yes, absolutely. I would love to. I think I messaged Dean. I said, I think I'm a DAO prospect. How do I go about it? But yeah, I would love to.
Well, Dean, I think we have one more DAO edition this week. And
Yeah,
on this
absolutely.
on discourse, we should also make sure that you have the permissions. Sorry, Dean, I interrupted you.
No, Sejal had DM'd me, and we saw her in the join the Discord this week. Then she shared that. I said, that's great, but and I think this is one of the things she appreciates. I said, we do everything in the open. If you can please post this back in live chat, which she did. Everybody agrees this introduction is phenomenal, and this is exactly the kind of people we want. So, and Sejal, this is where we're also building out this process. You know, now we're building out this process of, okay, at what point does somebody join the DAO or not? You've displayed exactly what we want to see people do, that they attend the DAO meeting, that they come up and discuss. Yeah, so really excited to develop DAOing with you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited and I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, so definitely, looking forward to it. But kudos to you guys. I mean, lovely. I enjoyed the discussion also, right? I think I think that is what people need, right? Like confidence to speak up and people who are, ready to agree or disagree, be it whatever. But yeah, that is important. But yeah, I'm here and I'm going to be super active and, build with you guys and definitely believe let's have another call and talk more about it. Yeah.
Definitely during the week, I think Dean, we should arrange maybe a workshop to discuss into the different kinds of DAOs and decentralization, centralization, progressive, like all those things. And with our discussions, I think we're definitely gonna learn a lot from your research and what else we could do at Grape.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think one of the things that we learned from Patrick from Lighthouse is that we can set up these like immersive workshops to explore new territories in DAOing. So yeah, let's circle back. Sejal, let's see if we can put something on the books for this week.
Absolutely, Dean. All like hands down for it. Like, let's do it. Definitely. We'll connect with you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sajal. And with that, we're going to go on to the next topic on the agenda. Let me remember where we were. We covered Mango. Did we cover the successful proposals on the next steps? CryptoPause, I think you had added those two. Was it just like to mention that those proposals have completed the?
Yeah, basically, just to keep people informed that those happened, they succeeded, and
Yeah. So those two proposals succeeded. Grape is officially sponsoring the reputation workshop at Breakpoint with Civic and Lighthouse, and the other topic you put was the grape token mint, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big one. So do
Yeah,
you want
really
to
big
start?
one.
Do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I think we actually need to discuss something or discuss the whole situation now and like give everyone time to think about. So yeah. Is there like I'm not even aware where we stopped in the last time we talked about it, so I'm not sure if people are aware what's coming up or what we need to do. So everybody probably knows that at some point we as a DAO need to bring the initial investors into the fold, so to say, and think about what we want to communicate to them. And as I understood, we also need to mint grape for that, right?
Yeah, and if we mint, like the moment we mint all the grape, the current settings and realms are the ones I posted on live chat. We have 5-day voting. You need 200,000 grape to create a proposal. That's not going to change the moment we mint the rest of the grape. The minimum council tokens, the grape proposal is 1, and there's no minimum instruction holdup time. That means that the moment the proposal goes through, the funds or whatever it has to execute, there's no additional delay. Like it could make sense that we add a delay for treasuries that need they don't need the funds to immediately move anywhere, maybe for additional security. And the vote threshold percentage is currently 4%, and that is 4% of all the grape that's currently minted. It's not based on the current circulating supply. The current circulating supply is all the grape which is not in any kind of vesting schedule. Radium Fusion Pool is a vesting schedule. Our the team allocations, the investors, those are vesting schedules. So if we remove all those, like today, the actual circulating grape is what's not in realms and has been distributed to directly to token holders so they could vote. So the number you see on CoinGecko is subtracting today radium. It subtracts everything that's in a realms governance controlled wallet. Those tokens are not technically circulating. They're basically, that's the way they count circulating supply versus non-circulating supply. And in general, I've always tried to look at the circulating supply as to the maximum potential voting we could have as a DAO. Like if everybody has their grape, what's the maximum number of people that could vote? Like that's the number I like to look at when we look at what makes sense, like the quorum of what makes sense to vote. We have been manually minting 5 million grape since last September every month. And when the investor and team vesting schedule started in the September, we had to mint more grape, which is based on the tokenomics of grape and the vesting schedules. But these vesting schedules need to be set up in such a way that it's automated and we don't manually need to continue minting grape. Like we need to mint the rest of the grape, set the supply to be fixed at 1 billion grape, regardless of what the community decides at the 5-year mark. Again, based on the tokenomics, the community could decide to burn the 300 million community grape if the community wants to. So minting the grape today like the full supply, doesn't affect any future decisions the DAO will take. So
the question would be for me, like, if those 1 billion aren't what is considered circulating supply,
right.
does it have any, like, because obviously not all grape minted would be circulating because they technically are locked and in a vesting scheme or schedule or whatever you called it. So like it
So
shouldn't affect the circulating supply that much, right?
that's a very good point you're bringing up, and Dean shared a screenshot which has a configuration setting in Realms, which we could define how many tokens are actually circulating. So if you look at the community mint max vote weight source, it's currently set to 100%. What that means is that if we currently have 130 million grape, that is the supply that Realms is looking at to calculate the quorum of 4%. So 4% of 130 million is approximately 5.2, 5.4 million grape. And at the current rate, if we continue to have this increase for the next 22 months, that's where the team and the investors vest. The additional increase in the quorum every month is approximately 600,000 grape, where if we kept all things equal based on exactly what we were doing so far, the quorum would be increasing by 600,000 grape every single month. By going and making a change in the Realms configuration to change the min-max vote weight source from 100% to what is actually circulating, or a little bit above that, so we have a few months, so we don't keep on changing these configurations. We're moving from manually minting the grape to changing a configuration setting on Realms to respect the voter weight, because we want our community to always have control over the DAO, and at the same time, we want the voter threshold for yes to be consistent over time. So step number one, we would mint the rest of the grape, and immediately following that action, if we don't do anything, the quorum will become 40 million grape to pass a proposal. So nothing is going to pass the way things stand today, and we would need to adjust the total circulating max vote weight source from 100% to 15%, and this will be needed to be adjusted for approximately 1 to 2 years. I think at that point, I'm very confident that we will have a fixed quorum based on the total supply, and we're not going to need to touch this ever again.
But this is just because, like, as I understand that right now, it means basically that Realms would see the circulating supply as 1 billion, and we manually edit it in Realms, but this is only for Realms, right? What would we communicate?
It's not like Grape is reinventing the wheel and we're trying to adjust the settings to meet our community. If you look at other Realms DAOs, they already know how many tokens are actually circulating and how many are vested. So this is why that setting exists. If all the tokens are not actually circulating, they can't all possibly vote. So when you're calculating the yes quorum, the lowest number you could set it to is 1%. And 1% of 1 billion is again way over what our current quorum is. And so we're still very far away from even that.
No, I understand that, but like in my mind, it should be, or I would understand if it would be like whatever number we're communicating as circulating supply gets, for example, taken, or you could see that reflected on CoinGecko or whatever, and Realms also looks at the same number and says, okay, since this is all tokens that are circulating, this is 100%. And by that logic, as I understood you correctly, if Realms detects like the 1 billion, we would also communicate those 1 billion to everyone else, basically.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and we're working on a solution to properly calculate those numbers directly in Realms, but the solution is not ready, and the vesting schedules need to be set up. As Dean said, we're already behind schedule on that, and we have two options basically. The one option is we use the VSR contract on Realms, which we're going to use anyway for reputation, because we're going to need at least 2 tokens that the governance program looks at. And we're going to need a plugin to calculate what the current supply is. And that would need to be in an account which is consistent. So, CoinGecko, like our governance program, all would look at that and say that's the circulating supply. In an ideal world, we would, have this already set up and we could use it for our own DAO. But it seems that we're not going to rush on using the VSR program, because this introduces a lot of new problems that we haven't thought about, and calculating your voting power, how much power, like Dinah, what you're saying is great, but we're not prepared to enable locking Grape and giving any extra amount of voting power. We need to have these discussions first as a DAO, understand what we want and what we consider is correct alignment of incentives of token holders, contributors. Like if I could go and acquire Grape and I could contribute in the DAO, we have to find what the correct balance is in both. And that's a really big conversation, which we need to all take part in as a DAO. First, figure out what those numbers look like before we activate any lockers for Grape. I think the right timing to do that would be with the reputation model, and that is for sure a few months away. And I'm being optimistic by saying a few months away. It's something that everybody's trying and nobody's getting it right. So it's good that a lot of people are trying to contribute and solve this problem like Grape. And the recent Mango attack is a good reason of why we shouldn't rush to have a half-baked solution for our DAO. And Dean, you wanted to talk about Streamflow and an article. I'm not sure if that's the correct time to bring that up.
Okay. Yeah. No issue there.
Do you want to talk about that, because it's related with what we're saying?
Yeah, but if you don't think it should be brought up.
it's related to what we're discussing.
Yeah. So so we're going to need to have streaming for these vesting contracts. And as Billy said, the VSR would have been great. There's a lot of things that need to change that aren't in place. Um, and as Billy also brought up, we're discovering a lot of things that we're probably the first to discover. Things like, okay, if a governance token is streaming, should you have the ability to vote with it? These get bigger into philosophical, but Streamflow, in discussing them with them, they're also offering to build out one of those components we need. So the article I mentioned is going to be this announcement of how we're working with Streamflow, not only for our vesting, but also in kind of exploring this area. And that doesn't mean we stop working with Realms or Mango or anybody else. It's just now we have another person who is helping us get those tools ready.
I'm not aware of the exact, tools they're building. Because in the discussions that we do have with them, it doesn't seem looking into modifying their program to create what we need at Grape and what I'm describing as a solution for Realms.
Yeah, look, I'm in the same conversation you're in with them. Let me bring that up right now. And obviously, guys, some of these conversations, it's just certain members in Grape. So the last thing they did is they explained that they can't do it on chain, and they have Switchboard to do the calc. Now, the calc specifically is for our ability to do quorum. Regardless, we're going to need to have a vesting solution. But yeah, you're correct. What they've pointed to is that there could be something to do, and you're right. What they said most recently is a switchboard. So
yeah, let me explain what the disadvantage is of that. The disadvantage of having a Oracle to monitor our voting, like locked vesting schedules, is that that's a new form of attack vector for DAOs, which, if we're going to go this route, we might as well use a solution which is 100% a Realm, it's open source, and we do that. But that doesn't mean I'm against using Streamflow for the vesting schedules that need to be set up. It's just that the decisions we take affect the DAO. And this is why I was always reluctant in rushing to set up any streams or vesting schedules. There's no other reason why we're delaying. But since we're behind, and it's important to have these set up, we could continue with Streamflow for the vesting. And for the DAO and the community, we also have the same problem. Where is all of that Grape going to go? And how is that vested? Currently, the way we're vesting it is through the council. We're adding Grape in the community's control over time. And taking the decision to move all that Grape to Streamflow is not a decision. It's not a decision that the team should take. We need to share these risks with the community first, so everybody's on the same page that we're choosing a closed source streaming platform. We could only do that for the team and the investors. So we take the risk on that, and the community could choose if we could use Streamflow or we could wait for the VSR program. to be included in Grape, and we have an automated way to vest the community controlled emissions. But yeah, Dean, if there's an article that you want to share, and
No, yeah, you probably haven't seen it in Telegram. So what I've told them is, guys, if they're not going to build that out, there's no point in me writing an article how we're, working on governance solutions together. I think you agree there, right? Like if they're not good, otherwise we're just, using their vesting like everybody else. There's no reason for me to put an article together.
Exactly. I'm if they're not committed to doing this, I don't know why you would create an article unless
Yep.
they are committing to.
Exactly.
First of all, it's something which is going to help their protocol. Like the way I see it, this is the same problem most of the projects that are investing through Streamflow will have when they want to become a DAO. They're going to come to exactly the same point, and they're going to realize that we can't keep track of the number of locked tokens in one place. And how do we solve that? Like this is something which is going to improve their own protocol. It's not like they're doing something only for Grape. So I hope they could come also to the same understanding that this is important. And in parallel, we are also going to continue working and contributing to improve the VSR program that Mango has. So the way it currently works is investors have locked tokens in this program, and by default, they get the full voting power from the beginning. So this is not something which, it doesn't sit very well with how we envision a DAO. Like, if you always are at a deficit against these whales, you have very low incentive in participating when there's all these people that are, have more money, they've invested early, they've locked their tokens, and you're always going to be at a loss. So that part, like the way it's been currently set up, it doesn't align with how we want to use this program. Like, Dean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what we would like to see improve on the VSR is count the people that choose to lock their tokens. Like I participate and I'm getting a grant from Grape, and that gives me X boost. It's different from somebody that has early access and this whole plutocratic model, which it brings. It's basically replicating what we've seen in traditional companies.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
it just perpetuates the insider issue, right? Where, hey, because I was here first and whatever, and I got early access, it's super plutocratic. It's completely against what we've been trying to do here, where, and I think that when we brought that up to Adrian and Sebastian, I think that they were, like, they understood where we're coming from.
Definitely. And just to be like fair with what they have set up at Mango, all DAOs are not the same. Like they have specifically created Mango with this structure where the incentives probably need to align in this way. Grape is something completely different than Mango or Solend or all these other protocols. So in their case, it probably made sense because they were also providing liquidity. I'm not sure what else is involved, but for Grape, because we're trying to build everything together, and being transparent and having everybody involved is what we've been trying to do from the beginning. It's not like, oh, we just remembered that we have a community and their voice matters. This was always what we have been trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I think this is also a testament to, say, Jal coming and identifying us, right? We've been walking the walk the entire time. We're at the forefront of testing all of these tools. So, you know, we'll just keep doing that, but we have to be cautious. And I think we've been perfectly cautious too. You know, I don't know if Billy, you had shared with CryptoPause and myself the ACAM discussion. You comfortable sharing that here now?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a secret. It's well, first of all, the fact that ACAM came to our community. ACAM is a core contributor at UXD. UXD is a algorithmic stable coin on Solana, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are aware of the protocol size. And as a core contributor, he was trying to figure out, you know, what bounty programs exist in every community. And following the Mango exploit, he wanted to see if it's worth his time to explore exploiting our own DAO, like Grape. And I'm not sure exactly what he had in mind, but he calculated, you know, how much USDC he needs to buy X amount of Grape, so he could go to Realms and, you know, take over our DAO. And I specifically explained to him that we have already attacked our own DAO. Like we did a proposal and we tried to simulate that circumstance where if somebody was able to get enough Grape to, you know, empty our treasury, that we would be able to use the council tokens as a backup to move those funds before. So we had already like gone over that exploit, and what he brought to our attention was two things. We don't have a bounty program. And two, if you do, the contributors that have some like extra expertise in the space are going to spend more time to learn about your DAO, contribute, and, you know, if there's a serious exploit, we're going to know about it. I'm not sure, Dean, if that's the point you wanted to bring up or something else.
Yeah, I want to, like, again, it's showing that we're so far ahead of this that even people, like some people haven't thought of it. It's like, oh, I think I found an exploit. Let me come over to the Grape. Oh, sorry, dude. We already attacked ourselves. It's really cool. And, you know, continuously, even the stats you brought up before, Billy, where our current like low active participant number is the, you know, peak participant number for one of the biggest DAOs in Solana. These are all indicators of growth and excellence for us.
We maybe get back to the Grape Mint situation for a moment. I'm not sure I quite understood what's going to happen, to be honest. So there will be a big amount of Grape being minted for investors.
You mind if I try to re-sum it up real fast from?
Yeah, all the bullet points.
So whatever happens, we have to mint this Grape, and instead of us doing a mint every month, like that's not sustainable. It should have already, you know, it should all be minted. So we're going to be, you know, minting the rest of the Grape, and at this, and then right after, we're going to adjust quorum so that we're not inquirate. Those two, like, ultimately, it won't change anything day to day for us as a DAO to make decisions. It's just every single step we need to be, you know, discussing and very transparent about. So that's what's going to happen. You would see as a DAO member, there's going to be a council vote to change the quorum right after we mint the additional grape.
How do we as a community achieve a higher quorum?
Once the quorum is adjusted by the council, then we'll be able to hit quorum again.
But the community members will still have the same amount of voting power, won't they? So you adjust quorum above the quorum we have now, and how do you? I don't understand that part.
Can you say that again? I'm not quite sure I understood the question.
Okay, let's look at what we achieved on our recent votes on realms and voting power. I'm looking at about let's say 6 million votings.
Okay.
So would you then adjust the quorum to something along these lines, or?
Correct. The idea is that a vote will still require 6 million to pass.
Okay, that's okay. Because currently we had like, what was it, 4? So you would increase it by some amount.
The goal is for the quorum to stay just like it is right now. And to accomplish that, we're going to have to change this one config setting. We shared a few screenshots before. We're going to change the community mint max vote weight source. That way it matches where, our current experience. Now, there's one part of this topic we haven't brought up, which is, let me see, these were laid out by CryptoPause, related to dues around delegation, new temporary DAO, distributed word grape, do nothing. That's probably the meatier part of this discussion that we haven't gone into.
I also heard something about that we are behind the community community distribution schedule.
So if you look at the tokenomics, the amount being held by community is the same. The problem is that amount being held by the community has decided to keep it in the DAO. So that's where you would say you're behind, is that there was an expectation that would be when this all started, when the tokenomics began, there was an expectation that all of that grape would be circulating instead of in the community's treasury. But as votes, passed, the community had voted to allocate less grape out circulating. So that's where we're, if you would use the word behind.
Oh, okay. So we have distributed this grape according to the schedule, but it has been distributed to the realms.
Correct.
Okay. So we basically have kind of a supply shock incoming with this mint. Isn't that what's happening?
Yeah, you could think of it in that context, but that supply shock won't materialize in our voting because we're going to do this change to quorum.
What's the worst case if our investors decide to dump? Could we even absorb this from a liquidity standpoint?
That's way out of my depth. I don't know if anybody else can answer that question.
What was the question, right? I didn't hear it.
If our investors that now get their tokens, if they decide to dump, do we have the liquidity and the liquidity pools to even handle it? And what's the possible? Yeah, I mean, for our operations as a DAO, the price impact is not.
The price of the token doesn't impact Grape at any point in time. And what anyone can do with the token is not under control, obviously.
Yeah,
So,
but if what the DAO needs is that if anybody wants to join the DAO, it needs to be a liquidity pool that's functioning. So that's what I mean. It's a bit extreme, my question, yeah, but we are in a bear market. People start removing liquidity and so on. So I will might be thinking 2 steps ahead or too far, but it's something I just came up in my mind.
so first of all, the vesting schedule for the investors, for all investors, had a 1-year cliff and started unlocking on September 14th of this year. And that vesting schedule is for 24 months. So when and if they do whatever they decide to do, is started on September of last month.
Okay. So we could look at what's happened since then and make
Correct.
an educated guess about what they will continue to do.
Exactly.
Okay, okay.
But just like if I'm not going to speak on behalf of anyone else, but if I personally was at a loss, and I believe in a protocol, I don't know if it makes sense to do what you're describing.
Well, that's kind of getting into investing theory now. So what does this community mint max vote rate source identifier do? Is there like a little doc I can read?
So if today we have 130 million tokens and we adjusted it to 10% from 100%, it would see that our supply was 13 million, and you would multiply that times 4%, and you would get like 540,000 grape is the minimum amount of grape required to pass a proposal. But keep in mind, even though you could pass a proposal with that number, the proposal time is always 5 days. So if it's mathematically possible for the proposal to go the other way, just because it reaches the quorum, the proposal will continue for 5 days, because it's always going to be mathematically possible that more grape could show up on Realms.
Okay, maybe I'm smooth-brained right now, but I didn't get that.
So even if, let's say, the quorum number is set too low, it's not a real risk for our DAO. Currently, we have a very active participation, and we are achieving the quorum consistently. So that's like what's more like most important is that we can continue operations. The exact configuration changes, like on the max community vote, the max weight vote source. Again, we're going to agree as a community, okay, we're way above quorum now as a community. We should ignore any like team or investor like votes as if they don't count, just to make sure that as a community we could continue passing proposals without the need of those like votes.
Okay. But the way it was explained before, I understood that you basically want to raise quorum as a response to the investment.
Essentially, we want to keep it similar to what it currently is, and we're going to raise quorum at the same time, because once we make this change, it's going to be a static setting for the next few months. Go ahead, Dimitri.
Archimedes.
Sorry. I was saying
Your internet is breaking up.
quorum updates.
I think you're on Wi-Fi again, or what it was.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can't. I can't hear you. It's more guessing than
Hello?
doing.
Sorry, my internet connection here sucks. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, no, it's
Better
Can you
now,
hear me
yeah.
better now? Okay, sorry about that. So my understanding is that we're gonna need to be doing quorum updates regularly, manually, right?
Regularly.
Right. And will there be a schedule to that, or will that happen ad hoc?
What's your idea, Billy?
So the moment we make this change, the quorum is going to be fixed to let's just say 6 million grape to pass a proposal, and in the next few months, as a community, we could vote to increase it as a DAO. I don't know if it's a good idea to do that monthly, but if you think we should set up a schedule to do that, then that's also possible, and we could create a proposal with that schedule.
Yeah, that's one thing. I mean, the other thing that I've been thinking is why not look at whether or not we can be using a fixed percentage against the backdrop of the amounts staked in realms, so that it doesn't matter how much is circulating. It only matters how much enters into the governance pool in total, right? So that a percentage of the grape that's staked is what we backdrop any discussions around voting is whatever is actually being used in realms, because whatever's happening outside doesn't affect the governance in reality, right? And have that be dynamic enough that it can, it could basically just look at whatever the total amount of grape that's staked and decide that percentage, and that way we have fewer updates, right? And it's dynamic enough where if somebody comes in with a significant amount of grape, right, to try and do something from a gaming perspective, the percentage should address that in some way, right? And I know that that's a change to governance, but the difference between us having potentially pre-authorized scheduling of
Let me just say that there's one attack vector to that, and Bonfida, they have a separate token which works in a similar way to what you're describing, and they have a very high quorum. I think it's like 33% of like their governance.
right.
So in that case, like what to do what you're saying, we would have to have another token, let's say G Grape, where to participate in governance, you lock and use that token. That supply is dynamic, so it would be similar to like House Strata mints tokens. But it's very complicated, and I'm not sure in that case if we would be able to consistently achieve quorum.
Got it.
Because I saw they had a hard time.
Yep. Okay. Well, it's good that you know that example, because I think it's the way that I was thinking about going about it was a lot simpler than that, and it's probably something for review more than something that's a definitive answer, because it could get tricky. But so the whole notion is coming back to what we'd have to do. We'd have to be adjusting the quorum every so often, basically according to keeping track of the stats and keeping track of what's going on with the circulating.
Correct.
As I see it, I understand where you're coming from, Archimedes, and when you mentioned it, I like the idea because for me it makes sense to adjust it to on a percentage base based on what is available in realms, so that it's irrelevant what's on the open market. But the this idea and everything that we are talking about the last like 10 minutes or so, for me, is a result of the initial question that you also briefly talked about, and what Ryder asked about. What is with the community funds? So not funds, but the community tokens. Initially, the idea was to distribute Grape to the community. So we're thinking about like ways we can prevent someone, like maybe an investor who has a huge allocation, comes in and changes stuff and can do things on realms. So we need to like think about how to prevent it. But this is only a problem because we didn't distribute the tokens to the community. Because if the community tokens had been distributed, there wouldn't be like the situation where one individual can come in, like say an investor, and like use their token weight to change anything, because then there would be enough people in the community who could match those tokens. But if there aren't enough people in the community who could do anything about it, so that like even if 80% of the community is against a proposal and it doesn't matter because they don't have enough grape because they weren't distributed, I think this is the issue we need to think about and to solve. And we briefly talked about that. So for me, the upcoming mint, I have like 2 points that are important for me to think about, and I'm not quite sure what to do. One would be why we need to mint everything at once. I understand that this is I would have initially thought that Grape would do it in the first place. So mint everything, every token is minted and then locked, but obviously the tools weren't available. So we do it out of convenience, quote unquote, to mint everything, but this has has also an impact on the market, and we can't ignore the price impact, because like as soon as the supply increases that much, like 1 billion from 100 million, 130 million to 1 billion, this is a huge difference. So I think we are at least or we should at least look at this from a perspective from someone who joined Grape and bought Grape. So we need to be aware that this has an impact on whatever they did, because obviously if the supply had been different from the beginning, they would have probably gotten more Grape when they bought. So this is also something we need to keep at least in mind. This is one thing,
Right.
why we mint everything at once. And the second thing is, what about the community tokens? How can we either distribute the community tokens according to what was initially thought, that the community should have the power, or delegate them?
Right. I think there's another factor to this where Realms didn't exist before, and it's gotten to the point now where it exists today. And I think the discussion around quorum would be the common denominator challenge that we would have under any scenario, right? Whether things were omitted or used or not used, etc. There's still going to be that discussion around how do we manage quorum properly, and you'd have to beat to the punch making votes to change quorum before tokens actually are available and staked to be able to prevent any misuse or attacks, right? Like quorum changes, so that somebody, if you were to open up quorum change to community versus the alternative, right? That is a bigger challenge than we think. And when you look at what happened to Mango, they also, as a protective mechanism, had a very similar approach to this, where somebody took advantage, they tried to manipulate, and they had the contingencies, they had the backup plan, right? And I think that was important, and I think that that's important still, and I don't think that that's going to change in terms of do we have that right today? I think we do. But what I was trying to get at, is understanding clearly it's not simple, right? We could try to simplify this as much as possible, but we're still going to end up having the reality of it being it's not straightforward, and there are a lot of different things to take into account and a lot of different parts to making it work properly. And if we're concerned about attack vectors, we need to, I think, stick to the model that we have so far, which is we talk through every point properly and come up with a plan for each one. So emitting grape is not the only task that needs to be discussed. It's also changing quorum and making sure that the timeliness of both of those things are coincided, right? I don't think, let's put it this way, I don't think there's going to be a way to have an easy defined schedule for changing quorum. I think it needs to be based on what's happening when things are being executed and put into the flow. That's my two grapes. I don't want to harp on it too much, but I definitely wanted to share that thought because I'm looking at it and thinking of all the points everybody's presented here, and want to get somewhere better than where we are today, but not at the risk of having, that much openness in attack vectors that clearly, if anybody wants to take advantage, at least one person has already expressed that they're paying attention, right? So whatever we do, we should do it. We should do it measured and calculated. That's all. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I think there's much reason in what you said.
Also, another question would be if we mint everything at once and like use Streamflow to distribute it, wouldn't we we need to give Streamflow the grape, right? It's not in our custody any longer.
Or we could mint directly to the council-controlled wallet, which would continue to manually do that distribution until we have a way to do it through the VSR. So if we use a streaming program like Streamflow, we need to understand that there are some risks, like with all programs on Solana. It's not unique to our community. So if we decided to also stream the community Grape directly to the community-controlled governance wallet, that would be 100% automated. It would be on a fixed schedule. But the part which is not fixed is the Grape that is after the 5-year mark. So there is no schedule for those tokens. It would be, if it was set up on a streaming contract, this would be, it could be done through Realms. We could do the vesting schedule in Realms with that destination. The only concern is that this protocol is not open source, and it could be for security. I'm not sure why it's no longer open source. We would take this risk to use this vesting program for Grape. I think we should look at all the options that we have and see what are the benefits and disadvantages.
anyone from the audience something that they want to add?
One of the alternative options is we could create a separate DAO on Realms, which is again council controlled, to set up the community emissions through a VSR program. And we will just need to have a way to claim the monthly grape based on the tokenomics as a DAO. We would have to claim that. It wouldn't just pop up in our wallet and governance. That's another option that doesn't exist today, and it's a solution that it might be worth exploring as an alternative. And I'm referring to the community grape.
I don't know, mate. It feels like we need to come up with a few options and really think them through and then make a decision.
So that option is not a option that's executable. It's basically continue with not minting all of the grape for the community. Or we mint all the grape, it goes to the grape treasury, which is controlled by the council, and we have the time to figure out a solution which is appropriate for the community and whatever the community thinks is best. In regards to the team allocations and the investors, it does sound like we're going to use Streamflow to set those up, because that is behind schedule. But what's pending is to see what we're going to do with the community grape. Like, we have one option is to also add that on Streamflow, knowing the risks. And again, there are risks even using the VSR program. It's the only difference is that the one is open source, that we are contributors to that program as a Grape. And that's the default instance that everybody is using on Realms. So if there is an exploit and somebody like a white hat hacker lets us know, we would have some control over it. On Streamflow, if they have a multi-sig, I don't know where the program is deployed and how it's deployed, but it's for sure not in our control in any way. We don't have like a council vote or that's the difference between the two.
Hey, Billy, I have a crazy idea. For how much is the remaining 5-year community token?
300 million grape.
So, I'm trying to think of scenarios. If would the community be able to decide what happens with that 300 million grape today, or is it the community in 5 years that decides what to do with that?
Well, the tokenomics say what happens for the first 5 years, and then that's very clear.
Right.
And the other thing that the tokenomics say, which is clear, is that the maximum supply is 1 billion grape.
Right.
Now, if we actually mint all the grape, or we mint and we burn later on, that's also an option. But since that decision hasn't been made, and the mint eventually could be transferred to Realms, it could be a decision to mint that 300 million grape.
You're right. I'm trying to. I guess, and this is a philosophical thing, right? Is it does the DAO of today get to decide what the DAO of 5 years? And I guess the answer is no, right? Like, could we as a DAO? And this is a thought experiment.
That's what we do with as a society every day. Like, we burden our children and the children.
So, okay, no, and that's really cool. Like, if we put in our bedrock that says, hey, there are certain decisions like what to do with that 300 million that we cannot make on behalf of the DAO of Grape 5 years from now. I think that's a cool thing. And it's a cool thing to make into stone and communicate.
What I thought when I looked at the chart again for the tokenomics is like, it shows different groups, but essentially those groups are overlapping. So, like, for example, the team is also part of the community, whereas the investors aren't necessarily part of the community, at least not as tightly connected as the team. So,
or maybe in an anonymous way.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But what I'm asking myself is, does the graphic reflect the community power versus team versus investors? So is everyone who is participating within Grape considered a community member and should thereby have the Grape? So who is this community that should decide over where the Grape are allocated?
What I am more missing in the tokenomics is there's much along the lines, okay, who gets what tokens, but there's not much emphasis on token flows. Like, okay, where are transactions where something can be burned? Where are transactions that buybacks can be done and other things like it's usually done. Even in our current GAN setup, we just have, okay, pay this amount of Grape once and you are set for life. Thank you very much. But this is
the way
how reality works.
The way the tokenomics were initially created were on a membership model for everything. Like, we thought that you could have a membership model that over time more and more people would want to be a part of this DAO, and that was a flaw in the initial tokenomics, the way we initially envisioned it. But because that model is flawed and doesn't work, it doesn't mean that we cannot improve the tokenomics and vote on something better.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. It needs to rework.
Well, that's a big discussion, and on the actual maximum supply and the allocations that are the current schedules, and we don't have flexibility on what we have already committed to. But what we do have flexibility on is improving on the actual flow, as you're describing, of the token. Like, that could be improved, and having that maybe written in stone too could help us navigate in improving the tokenomics.
Yes, I completely agree.
It's a big discussion, though. So for today, we are aware as a DAO that we need to take some decisions on if we're going to mint the Grape, where it's going to go. That we're discussing the community Grape. Are we going to set up streaming contracts for the community Grape? And if not today, what are we going to do until that that solution is available? I think these are the questions we're trying to answer.
You want a decision on that today?
Ideally, as soon as possible, so we don't have this delaying for months.
Yeah, we at least need to make sure when we talk next about it, let's say Tuesday or next Sunday, because I guess everyone needs time to think about it. But we can't act like we did last time when Dean brought it up. We acknowledged it and then go on with our lives and meet next Sunday and say, well, we didn't think about it. Let's take again 10 days or whatnot. So we need to make set ourselves a deadline, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I think although we've had a lot of time to think about it, but we know at some point this is going to be a problem. We need to explore the different paths that we have and see which paths make the most sense for Grip.
Yes. Someone will have to come up, or some group of people will have to come up with different options that can be presented to the DAO at large and can then be brought to vote.
I mean, I know I'm definitely interested in volunteering to contribute on this topic, but anybody else want to contribute to possible solutions?
You know I'm down for it.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I qualify, and yeah.
We are talking about changing or basically amending the tokenomics for the future, right? Exactly something that me and Vale were discussing on the live chat. Is that what we're talking about, right?
Not yet. First, we are talking about how we are going to solve the upcoming mint situation. That's our first order of business.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, but that brings us to that problem. Basically, they are connected in some way.
I think we should start the discussion in writing and get this either into a discourse and for us to really center focus around the specific questions that need to be
Yes.
answered.
It
And
needs to be written down.
Yeah, tackle each one.
You have just volunteered, Archimedes. Your application has been accepted.
You know he will write something, right? There's no
I'm trying
scenario.
to avoid being the one who writes it so that it's short and sweet, Crypto Boss.
Short and sweet. I know that I will have coffee to it.
As long as it's good reading material, either for the morning or other places, it's good. But I think the questions, there's a lot of questions that keep coming up here, and we could get lost in it. And I think we need to tackle each one, but we also need to know them all at once, right? Like we have to have the consideration of all the questions that need to be asked and answered, and then tackle each one knowing all the questions that need to be answered and factoring those in, because some of the answers to these questions are part of what we're doing on the answers to some of the other questions we have, and we're going to keep going back and forth on specific questions rather than viewing the whole challenge. And I think, not to confuse ourselves, tokenomics is a separate discussion with how minting happens, and it might be that we find overlap in the discussion, and we'll get there when we get there. But that's my two grapes.
Yeah, at first we need to solve this mint situation, and for that we need to put it in writing, as both you and Paul said. And I think that what will be valuable to the DAO at large is to have once we got something in writing, then to structure it a little bit, maybe simplify it, and then present some options to the DAO at large that they can decide on and do not need to be experts on this topic, but just can use the information that was prepared for them.
Yeah, and then set our time for the next DAO call on the next Sunday to try and get somewhere and see if we can make progress on it.
What do you think
But
about this, Billy? You have been quiet a little bit.
In general, we're good with discussions, and on the execution side here, we need to keep in mind that we have to have some kind of executable soon. Like within the next week, like to come up with a proposal or something. Like, I don't think it's a good idea for this to drag on a very long time.
Okay, what do we need to do to really do next week?
So the questions are the actual mint of the remaining grape. Do we mint the full supply and the community grape goes into a DAO controlled wallet and we could figure everything out after for grape? That's an option, but we're minting like that would be we mint the full grape for 10 years. In that case, like I don't know, like what's the correct thing to do? Do we mint for the 5 years based on what like it's set on stone on the emissions, or we do mint the full supply?
One thing to think about in this discussion is also how fast can we get, or what's the timeline towards total decentralization? In those two scenarios where one is we mint the full supply now, or the other is we mint the rest of the supply later. It's a that is on the decentralization spectrum. Unless I guess we could, instead of mint it, allocate the mint authority to the DAO. Is that another option, Billy?
We could, but the mint would remain open unless we mint and like close the supply. But that's another option too. But in this case, the mint would remain like there's no fixed supply in this case. Yeah.
And look, like guys, I'll share my ideal is that we get to a place where we're decentralized completely, and sticking to the 1 billion. If we were to move mint authority to the DAO, there is still that potential for the token supply to go up over 1 billion, which for all intents and purposes we don't want. We shouldn't want that. It's good that we're having the conversation so that everybody understands really how complex governance is. It goes back to what Billy said before. Tooling is one thing, but just these discussions alone is where a lot of work has to happen too. So yeah, we want to give that color in that when we're thinking about things, it's also our journey towards a complete decentralization. Yeah.
What does this even mean, complete decentralization?
Well, right now, there are central authorities that could choose to mint 10 billion grape. That's not decentralized, it's centralized. The only way it becomes decentralized is if it's either controlled by the DAO or the mint authority is burned. So that's an example of moving towards, complete decentralization.
Okay, what was the initial plan? How to deal with the mint authority?
Yeah, so that, I mean, just like the plan is that we're not gonna, I assume we're not gonna be a DAO that always has a council token. You know, that's also on that roadmap. I can share the article.
But somehow we are widening the scope of the discussion by the minute.
Yeah, I'm bringing up this list that has always existed, right? This list I had shared a while ago, and you know, there's probably new things we're discovering that need to be in this list. There are things that have changed. Like we've already done a few of these things in this list too. You know, we've discussed how the Radium IDO fund. Okay, then we've discussed staying on the default of SPL governance versus deploying our own. We've discussed that. The council tokens, we've discussed it, you know, but yeah, these are the things that I had identified at that point. And I had written the most dangerous proposal is the transfer of the mint authority to realms. But that's, you know, that's where we're walking the walk. I don't think anybody's done that.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I don't think anybody has like trusted SPL governance to the level that we have, but it's again, it's a big decision. Like you have to compare the risk of having a fixed supply where you have everything's predictable by everybody, and you have a DAO which can continue minting tokens. And if there was a vulnerability in realms or whatever, the supply could be unlimited. Like there's benefits and disadvantages in every decision that we take. But I think if there's a way to have a fixed supply and the DAO could continue performing any tasks which are related to the Grape token, like I think for me personally, that would be the ideal scenario, that the DAO has control over any necessary updates on the SPL token level.
Yeah, I think we should put something in writing and continue next time along with some people proposing more detailed solutions. Right now we are just flopping around in space.
Yeah, I agree. But we started by sharing where we are, what we need to do, and what decisions we need to take as a DAO. So let's try to use this the next few days into having a discussion, and everybody in the DAO should participate to help find a solution that's something where we all want to be aligned and see as like the least risks and most benefits for our community.
Yes. And to recap what I got, the next pressing point we need to decide on during the next week is how we are going to handle the mint for the investor tokens. If we're going to mint everything or only a part of it, and to what addresses it's going to be minted. It's it should be going to SPL governance or realms or some other solution. Did I get this right?
Yes, that's correct. We need to present all the different options with all the different risks, and we all could propose what we think are good, bad solutions and make a poll before we put something binary on chain, because we're going to need to have some kind of binary decision on this is what we want to do with XYZ. Okay, that goes on chain, we vote for it. And then if it's something separate, we could have a separate proposal.
Yeah.
I think we covered everything on the agenda, and we're over 2 hours. We had one last thing. I want to give a brief update on the Bears. They have enabled NFT voting, and they have that enabled here. So if anybody has a bear, you can vote. What else? The problem that we currently have is they're running an older version of SPL governance, which is one version behind what everybody else is running, and I think this is why some of their community whales are not able to vote. So they're going to need to upgrade that. But from our end, we've assisted and made this work perfectly.
How do you mean they are running?
They
Yeah.
have set up their own program
Yeah.
and deployed it, and it's not the default instance that we chose to use. They're running their own program, SPL governance.
Oh, that's ballsy.
They are, they're they're, if you go to their settings, the owner is this address. While on our governance, and the one that most communities use as the default, is the gov address, which is maintained by the Realms team, and Dean's also in that council. So there's a governance for that, and it's here.
The Rams maintainer name I have in my mind is Adrian. Adrian from Rams is always in my mind.
Yeah, you could see the full list if you go to the members. It's Sebastian, Dean, Max. I think, I'm not sure if Adrian is in this list, but
Okay.
I don't know all the names.
Yeah, great. Let's hope they figure this out. Any last words, maybe by pause? Is there something you would like to talk about? Or?
No, all good, all good, all good. I'm still thinking, thinking about the mint. So
Look, for next agenda, let's make sure to put Nanko's proposal. We put that to the bottom today, and let's just make sure it's the first one that we bring up on Tuesday. And the only other thing we discussed today is reputation next steps to implement Scientist Joe's reputation model, which, a lot of what we're discussing is around that. If we had a reputation model in place, a lot of what we're discussing would be different. So I just want to make sure we put those topics on the next agenda.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't notice that we skipped that. Nanko, do you want to briefly talk about that? So we have that in mind for the next DAO call to start with it.
I think he had to drop off because his son fell.
Okay. So yeah, in any case, we can't touch upon that right now. Did we skip anything else? The reputation, right?
It was just the reputation stuff, and really, it's such a big discussion. I think we can, touch on it on Tuesday, or maybe make another workshop specifically for it.
I'm getting confused now. My information was that the most pressing issue is the mint next week. And now you want to put Neko's proposal at first?
No. The order of the agenda doesn't matter. I mean, that's not what I don't think, Dean. That's what you meant. Is just not to forget this topic next week.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to silence anyone. And he came here. He took the time. He wrote it up. He's a new member. I think it's important that we acknowledge all proposals during this time.
Okay. Great. Then I guess have a nice afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye bye.